That's not going to work. Mark Steyn's joining us now. He's one of my absolute favorites. He's written books that, frankly, should be required reading for all Americans. Most recently, After America, Get Ready for Armageddon. And he joins us now. Mark, how are you, sir?
Hey, I'm doing great, Laura, and I got no problems with that statement. In fact, I think it's page 129 or something in my book. I actually discuss that same statistic. It's the great question facing free societies across the world. What happens when the takers outnumber the makers? There's 50 million Americans on food stamps. That number ought to be a source of shame. Where would it be at the end of an Obama second term? 75 million, 100 million? What's the correct number for the appropriate number of Americans on food stamps? We've got people in their early 50s on taking permanent disability because they've given up on looking for work. What's the correct number for that? If you vote Obama in November, the 50 million on food stamps is going to go up to 60 million, 75 million, 90 million, increasing dependency and increasing the bureaucracy that administers to the dependents.
No, and you become France. So because we've seen this tried before. This act has been played out in Europe where the social welfare state grew and grew and grew until finally they said, uh-oh, we don't have the dough for this anymore. And so now governments are trying to figure out, oh my gosh, how do we keep this sinking boat afloat? How are we going to do this? Well, that's going to happen to us. Same thing.
Yeah, and there actually isn't enough. There aren't enough people. Once all the people pulling the cart figure out, hey, I can slide around the back and climb onto the cart. Eventually, there aren't enough. You talked about crony capitalism. I mean, that's the third part. It's the dependency class. It's the unionized bureaucracy that mails out the welfare checks to the dependency class, and then it's the so-called private sector that prints the envelopes that the welfare checks, that has the government contract to print out the welfare checks, the envelopes that the welfare checks are mailed out in. And when that gets to a certain level in society, and France is at that, and certain parts of France, where you effectively 60% of the population are working for the government, and the other 40%, the hairdressers don't want to vote for small government because if you've got a hairdressing salon, most of your clients are government workers, so indirectly you're dependent on the government. I mean, this stuff is killing free societies around the world. Obama wants more of it. Romney wants less of it. There's nothing wrong with saying that.
All right.